Hi, I'm Debbie, or Dealer4519 on YouTube. I'm going to make a series of videos, and I'm going to set them up, schedule them to drop at certain times, because I'm going to be very busy for the next little while, and I want to make sure that I stay in touch with you guys. And when I'm able, if I'm able, I can upload a video to YouTube, and all that will happen is it will go through Twitter. So if you're, and I don't post to Facebook, I post those personally. So if you're not my Twitter friend or follower, you're probably not going to get those videos. And of course, I'm Debbie Dealer4519 on YouTube and Dealer4519 on Twitter. There's so very much I want to say. Some of it I told you before in the last couple videos I'm not going to talk about, but that's going to kill me because it's hard to hold stuff in. One of the big things that I wanted to do was I wanted to pick up where I left off on my life story. I know I went back and I covered the years, the summer, 5 weeks between my junior and sophomore year, and I covered meeting Carol and making wonderful friends and connecting with old friends when I went back to Thomas Edison High School in Lake Station, Indiana. Now, it's time to talk about that. I had auditioned for, boy, this is tough. Let me back up. In my 10th grade year, I had auditioned for a singing, dancing choir group that the school ran. It was not a class, it was an after-school program. It is sort of like a drama club, only all we did was sing and dance to choreographed dance moves. And that was wonderful, but I'm going to back up. I knew that I was accepted. So when I got out of Porter Stark, the mental hospital that my mother thought I needed, she didn't want me to live with her. So she sent me to live with these people that I had known. I probably knew them all my life because they too hung out in the same bars my mother did. And remember, I had told you previously that I was literally raised in a bar. I slept as a baby in a beer box in the back room, wrapped up while my mother got drunk. That's disturbing. She admits all that. Not the getting drunk part. She admits that I was sleeping in beer boxes in the back room of a bar while she was drinking. Then that leads to the question, who drove us home? She did. I'm so lucky to be here. I'm lucky to be here anyway because, as you know, people my age drank out of garden hoses and played in the mud and dirt, and we didn't get leeches, and we collected bugs, and we rode in the back of pickup trucks, and we did all kinds of crazy stuff. But then if you add to it that I don't even know how I'm still here. Well, I know I do. I do know why I'm still here. Maybe I'll get to that too. But I want to cover real quickly the issue that the biggest part of what happened. My mother sent me to live with these people named Donna and Jim. Donna and Jim had 5 children. Penny was the oldest. Dawn was next. Then Felicia. Then Jay, and then Lance. Jay was 1 year older than me. Lance was a year and a half younger than me, therefore 2 grades behind me, I believe. But that didn't work out. More it didn't than it did. So, yeah, my dress was $49. $49, 1984. My dress they picked out was JCPenney dresses, $49. My mother worked for the railroad, And at that point, she probably only made $16 or $18 an hour. But when I called her from the place I was living and said, look, I need that dress before school starts because we immediately go to practices, dress rehearsals, and boom, we're on stage. She's like, $49, la 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 la, and I needed shoes. That was another $20. Oh my God, $69. And you ought to know how hard I had to fight for the class ring. Oh, by the way, I collect rings. If nobody ever knew that about me, so let this be known. I collect rings. They're not all alike. In fact, they're not any of them are alike, except this one is my birthstone. This one's a diamond, and this is my birthstone. But this is my class ring. I'll get it closer so y'all can see. And that was like $169. Seriously, people, I am not making this up. I didn't... my oldest son's class ring cost almost $500. And I had to spit that out in 3 weeks' notice, basically. And I had asked his father to help me, and he said that he would, but his wife never sent the check, so he didn't know that nobody, that he didn't help. And, finally, I think it was a year later, they reimbursed me for half. Skip all that. Let's move on. Because you guys don't even know yet how my oldest son got here. Hi, say hi to Cookie. Hi, Cookie. Okay, his moment in the spotlight's over. So here's the basis of this. So she didn't want me because I live with Don and Jim. And, you can't put a teenager in a house with, an entire family of 7 people, 5 other children plus 2 parents, and think that's going to just work out. So, of course, it didn't just work out. And she knew it wasn't working out, so she was at a bar it was called Bud's Bar, but it's changed owners and moved. But she was at a bar in Lake Station, and she called me at Don and Jim's house. And it's odd because why would I answer the phone? Why would I be the one? I don't know, but I was the one who answered the phone. And she said, you always wanted to know who your father was? So now I'm going to tell you the truth. Jim's your father. Well, anything could have been possible. Remember, I look just like my mother. Well, no, I'm prettier, but moving along. But he was like 6'2", and he was a different kind of parent, but a respectable man. In no time at all, you never, ever yelled what to him. If he called your name, unless you were in the bathroom, if he called your name, you got up and you went to him and said, yes, sir. That was a requirement. But he, again, deserved that kind of respect because of the man that he was. But when I got that phone call that he was my father, the only person in that family that I could have looked like, even a little, her name was Felicia. She was the youngest daughter. I called her and I said, and yes, I had all these phone numbers, but anyway, I called her and I said, have you ever heard, and do you know if it's true, that you and I are sisters and that your father is my father? And right away she didn't answer. And I said, Felicia, did you hear me? And she said, well, it could be, but I don't know. Well, of course, that's kind of freaky. And she said, my mom and dad split up after Jay was born. And they were split up for a year or so. And then they got back together. And then my mom got pregnant with Lance. And there's the gap. Remember, Jay was a year older. Or 2 years older. And Lance was a year and a half younger. So there's that gap. So even though things didn't necessarily work out while I was living there, it wasn't anybody's fault. And not theirs. not Jim, not Donna. They were wonderful people. For a long time, I stayed in touch with the oldest daughter, Dawn. Somehow I've lost touch with her. If you do know Dawn Ellison, I believe she still lives in Hobart, Lake Station, Hobart, that line. I would love to get back in touch with her. Not talking years, like into adulthood, I stayed in touch. But she's the only one that I stayed in touch with when their mother, Donna, died. I was called and I was notified. I went to the funeral. And she had struggled with cancer for a while, and she had been very sick. And it was a sad time. It really was a sad time. Not just for them, but remember, I had grown up in that bar, and I had seen them once or twice a week all of my life, and except for the foster home times and all that. So I had known them. In fact, Lance and I, when Lance was little, he would chase me around the back room of the bar where the kids could go. It was called a dining room with a pinball machine or something. But he would chase me around there. He'd go get the broom, and he'd chase me around. And so if I got custody of that broom, I'd chase him around. But we were young, so we had met before. And I want to go on record as having said this. All of those people are the most wonderful people on the face of this earth. I don't know if I'm related to them. We never did a blood test, a DNA test. God knows we should have, because that could have answered a lot of my questions. But Jim then denied the next day that he was my father. And my mom retracted that statement a week later. So that's probably why that situation fell apart. Then she sent me to live with John and Diane Van Vliet. Now, John and Diane, they had worked with my mom on the railroad. I want to say that my mom had been there longer, and maybe they were a few years seniority behind her. But they too were wonderful people, and they had 3 children. Now let me be honest about something. I should remember all 3. But because I'm only Facebook friends with one, I only remember Susie. I was happy there, but things went wrong, and there were fights, and I had broken fingers, and I don't really know why I went back to my mom's. You just can't keep up anymore. But now that's 2 different families, foster homes, mental health centers. She tried pawning me off on, and this is all before my junior year. So anyway, we move forward. I get through my sophomore year. I get the dress, I get the shoes, I get back to her house, and somehow in the middle of all this is when she insisted I was on drugs. I'm here to tell you, I had done drugs, but I had not done drugs to the extent she was talking. I mean, I might have smoked something I shouldn't have smoked once every 3 months at that point. Maybe every 6 months. It wasn't a big deal, and it was never interfering with my schoolwork, which is why I had A's and B's. I had A's and B's almost all the time. The only D I remember getting was biology my freshman year in high school, and that was in Portage. And, I'm not a biological person. I don't like it. So anyway, I wasn't on drugs. And I sort of knew before my junior year things were going to fall apart, but I didn't know why. And so where I'm going to leave off is that the summer before my junior year, another family that we had known since I was this big, they had small children. They needed a babysitter. They lived 35 miles away, so I had to go there and stay with the children. Their names are Joe and Nancy. They're still in my life. They're always going to be in my life. I'm having trouble connecting with them right now because of the things I'm going through, and because I don't want to hurt them, and I know that they would be sad if they knew. But Joe might watch this video, And if he does, Joe and Nancy should know I love him very much. I'm going to leave off there, the summer before my junior year. I hope all of you have a wonderful day or night, depending on what time it is in your neck of the woods. I'm sending best wishes. Bye.